I was very disappointed, and I would say even depressed for a while when I was stuck at home, because I do so much traveling and I love it. I love being out with crowds and speaking. But the coronavirus forced even me to be like, all right, really, what is the technology right now for doing telepresence? How much can you do over a video camera? Can you do education? Can you do classes? And it actually helped me reinvent a whole bunch of my business model.
Right.
Like it's been, there's downsides for sure, but the upsides have been full of innovation, because I was stuck doing what I was doing, and now I got kicked into a new world.
I think there's no doubt that this will unleash innovation. It'll unleash innovation partly by giving us exposure to these new technologies like video conferencing and so on. You know, there are several brand names that I literally didn't know until a few weeks ago, like Zoom and Zencaster and Teams. I think I'd heard of Zoom, but I'd never used it, you know, that kind of thing. But the other way in which it'll unleash innovation, I think, is, you know, maybe less pleasant for people. But crises like this do, to some extent, make space for new technologies to come through in place of older ones, new ways of working in particular. And almost everybody I talk to who's in business is saying, I'm rethinking how I structure my business. I was hearing about a retail business that has decided that it actually, you know, if it sells stuff by appointment, sort of click and collect stuff, it actually does better business than before, because it doesn't end up filling its store with people who are not making a decision. It only gets people who are interested in through the door. So there are going to be new approaches to retail. There are going to be new approaches to meetings. You know, I personally hope that my doctor, my lawyer, my accountant can see me remotely in future. Maybe not my dentist or my hairdresser. That may not work so well, but
I mean, you just imagine the culture change that we took, just the amount of time given back to people's lives, right? So it's not just going to see your accountant or your lawyer that costs you time. It's the drive, it's the parking, it's the getting in there. Now you lose the interaction and the serendipitous collisions that you don't know what's going to happen when you run into somebody randomly, but you get something back that's very hard to give human beings, which is more time.
Yeah, although I think one can't underestimate also the degree to which, for certain kinds of meetings, like Zoom meetings with more than 5 people in them, it's a very unsatisfactory medium. You know, the business that you can't interrupt people, that you keep finding you're talking over people, et cetera, that the quality of the line isn't always ideal. So we will go back to a lot of face-to-face interaction. I'm very interested in the psychology of this. I feel it myself, and I'm hearing about this on a wider scale, that people are mentally quite prepared to believe that it's safe to go back out there, but they're kind of psychologically still a bit scared about it. You know, I can't remember, how do I catch a train or a plane? How early do I have to set out? You know, what's it like passing lots of people in the street when I've been told to fear contact with strangers? You know, there is a psychological impact that I think will be quite profound for a while.
I remember about a month into the coronavirus lockdown, I had somebody delivering groceries, and I just wasn't paying attention when they came to my house. And suddenly there was a stranger at my house, which ordinarily would not have been that big of a deal. But now I found myself being in that fight or flight. Like I could taste adrenaline in my mouth. And you think, like, human beings need to interact with one another, because this is not a great psychological reaction to seeing another human being.
Right. I mean, back in the Paleolithic, a stranger was a threat. You know, I mean, somebody approaching your encampment who you didn't recognize was probably an enemy. So deep inside us, there must be a little bit of that, which we've managed to overcome. You know, we do. There's a lovely. I remember an anthropologist saying to me once, "Imagine chimpanzees boarding a plane." Queuing up and boarding a plane and bumping into each other and saying, sorry, you know, it just doesn't work. I mean, chimpanzees kill each other if they're strangers. You know?
Thanks so much for watching this Vance Crowe Podcast short. If you're interested in learning how to get better at communication, everything from getting rid of those uhs and ums in your conversation to figuring out ways to be more engaging, how to listen better, how to react, and how to create those kind of conversations where people really open up to you, then I recommend signing up for the Articulate Ventures Network. The beta testers are in there now. They're telling me which classes work, which formats work. But in 2 weeks, I'm going to be opening it up to podcast listeners. So if you'd like to be on that list, send me an email to vance@vancecrowe.com and we'll get you on the list so you can join the network when we get it started in just 2 weeks. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching this Vance Crowe Podcast short. If you're interested in learning how to get better at communication, everything from getting rid of those uhs and ums in your conversation to figuring out ways to be more engaging, how to listen better, how to react, and how to create those kind of conversations where people really open up to you, then I recommend signing up for the Articulate Ventures Network. The beta testers are in there now. They're telling me which classes work, which formats work. But in 2 weeks, I'm going to be opening it up to podcast listeners. So if you'd like to be on that list, send me an email to vance@vancecrowe.com and we'll get you on the list so you can join the network when we get it started in just 2 weeks. Thanks so much.